is the family. The second is the constituent unit of family, therefore the individual. The larger canvas of which the family is a unit, namely the society, and the dhancha or the mold that keeps the society intact, which is the concept of a state. Okay, these are the institutions that, according to me, which are very, very important. But the state itself derives its identity largely from the civilization that it believes it is a successor of. So it is an inheritor of something. Okay? As part of each of these levels, I believe that the temple as an institution is an extremely important institution. As someone who comes from the south of India, not necessarily South India, I do believe that we, as part of our upbringing, have seen that in action. It may or may not apply to everyone. So there's a decent chance that someone may say, how do you speak for everybody? No, I speak for myself and people who I've lived with. Okay. Two, unfortunately or fortunately, almost every controversy today in the national discourse revolves around the temple in one way or the other. Therefore, it is imperative to understand the nature of this particular institution, be it our own understanding of what is the caste system, be it our own understanding of what is the nature of that particular institution, whether it is a place of worship or a place of prayer. Therefore, what are the rules to be observed? Three, who are the stakeholders to that particular institution who can sit and comment and ask for reform? Okay. If you don't believe in something and you're not party to it, can you necessarily ask for reform without even understanding what that institution is about, without having the necessary training for it? Because it's okay for you to sit and pass this armchair comment that no, all religion is just about social control. I think that's as unlettered and illiterate and ignorant as it can get. Four, I think what is even more important is, today this particular institution has merely become an institution of ornamentation. The role that it played previously was, apart from being a knowledge center, it was also a merchant guild. It also provided livelihoods to so many people. So I think that is what my involvement in this particular so-called movement stems from. I must clarify, my involvement is not in the nature of an activist, because I think activists tend to be attached to their positions to such an extent that when you present them with contrary facts and when you ask them for an open debate, they label you with a certain, let's say, label by calling you a fascist or whatever it is, but beyond that they have nothing else to offer. So I would prefer not to see myself in the mold of an activist. I believe in that particular cause, but I'm approaching it largely from the standpoint of the skill sets that I've acquired over the last 10 years as a lawyer. Which is to say, if the state truly believes in the concept of secularism, shouldn't the state maintain at least an arm's length distance from all places of worship, including in matters of administration? In which case, why does it single out one particular institution for the purposes of control? And why can't it maintain the same degree of respect and distance from Hindu religious institutions as it does from other institutions? This is not an inquiry which targets other institutions of other faiths. It specifically says, at the very least, treat me at par with others and maintain this distance, because the state's entrenchment in temples is single-handedly responsible for the degradation and the devastation of the temple ecosystem and all communities associated with it. Most importantly, the more you read about this particular literature, our shallow, superficial understanding of temples and the communities associated with it, it gets exposed so thoroughly that, let me use this uncomfortable phrase, that this Brahmin domination of temples is such a myth that the more you read it, you'll be surprised. My family has any number of people whose Kuladevatas or family deities are so-called temples which are not controlled by Brahmins, and the priest is not a Brahmin, and a Brahmin cannot enter the sanctum sanctorum, the inner garbhagriha of the temple. That's the degree of respect that you're expected to observe, abide by, and follow. So the more you read about this institution, the history and the journey of this particular civilization will start appearing in front of your eyes. Nobody can ever say that every institution is perfect and flawless. That is a claim that our religion certainly does not make, or my religion does not make. It actually says that treat everything as fallible, but at least do so with responsibility and approach it with some argument and fact. That's the basic point. So my involvement has been to highlight this particular issue. In fact, While I was aware of it, I was not actively party to it. In 2015, a senior advocate of the Supreme Court, Mr. C.S. Vaidyanathan, who represented Ramlalla in Ayodhya judgment, he was kind enough to ask me to start taking an interest in these matters. So since he gave me that opportunity, I started reading more about it, and the more I read about it, I was astounded that such an issue, which has a bearing on so many people in so many communities, is effectively the subject of elitist discussions and uninformed discussions. So I wanted to contribute to that, and there was already a pending petition to the Supreme Court. Just a few weeks ago, we filed another batch of petitions challenging the HRC legislations of a lot of southern states, basically saying the state's role to facilitate social justice in the temple is perfectly acceptable. Previously, there was a situation, a terrible situation, where a vast section of community was not allowed inside the temple. And therefore, the state's role to ensure that such a situation does not return is 100% justified, and nobody can run away from that. It would be incorrect to run away from that aspect of history. But beyond that, citing that as an excuse, if you are swindling funds of the community and using funds of a religious institution for a secular purpose without the consent of that particular community, you're way out of line as far as any definition, any principle, any canon of secularism is concerned, and that is no more acceptable. That's the principled legal position, constitutional position that we have taken. Let's see what happens.